Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We wait a few more minutes as people is still joining the meeting.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Paris.
Good morning.
So I think that we can start the workshop. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. I will briefly introduce the objective of the meeting, and I will leave the floor to Panagiota for a short introduction about the general objective of the AccesS project. So today we will discuss the key findings of the work package 2, social inclusion and user-centered design approach, and which also includes a focus on active mobility solutions. During work package 2, we collected the needs and of the users of 6 demo sites of the projects in terms of built environment and mobility. And today we will present the key findings of our deliverable and also discuss, hopefully with our technical partners, how these needs and insights relates to the AccesS solutions that will be prototyped and tested during the project. As you can see, the meeting is recorded and it will be available on the YouTube channel of AccesS after the meeting. And then I will leave shortly the floor to Panayota for a very quick introduction about the goals of the AccesS project itself and how this work package relates to the other pillars of the project. Please, Panayota.
Hi, thank you all. Nice to see you. I'm happy to see the participation of all partners. I will just do a briefly introduction to the project, since this is a public event, an open event, so that everyone can familiarize with the overall vision of the project and follow up on the discussions later. So AccesS project envisions to create barrier-free environments, facilitate smooth mobility, and revolutionize accessibility and inclusivity of smart buildings and smart cities, enabling equal access to services and facilities. This way, the project aims to provide customization and personalization, operation management and optimization, simulation-based testing and compliance with accessibility guidelines, sustainable and energy efficient infrastructure design, universal design principles in products, and also a common classification system for accessibility features. Next slide, please. The novel elements of the project are based on the methodological framework formulating the basis of a user-centered design approach that will guide partners in effectively addressing social inclusion and accessibility as part of the project solutions. This is actually the main focus of the project, of the workshop today. A comprehensive accessibility assessment scheme for the built environment, which will address physical accessibility, usability, safety, comfort, and social inclusion in the standards, and define clear and measurable criteria, guidelines, and performance indicators for assessing accessibility. And all these are supported by digital innovations for accessible and inclusive design, as well as adaptive and sustainable operation of the built environment, integrated all together under an inclusive toolbox, the AccesS Suite, the Universal Accessibility Suite. The development pillars of the project are divided in three steps. The methodological framework for user-centered design and accessibility assessment scheme. This will be enabled by a core component, the Universal Accessibility Assessment Tool. Will enable the assessment of accessibility features according to accessibility guidelines and the accessibility assessment framework developed in the project. We will actually have a different workshop on these initial findings. The second pillar includes accessible and inclusive design of the building environment through software-driven innovations. So the core components on this pillar include the energy efficient sustainable design tool. These tool leverages BIM technology to enable energy simulations and under various scenarios in order to optimize building performance, including also smartness aspects. The energy comfortness tool will enhance energy efficiency while also considering user comfort. ErgoFlow is a tool to support the design and evaluation of ergonomically adaptive products. It's mainly addressed to designer and manufacturers to support them in the design of products that meet ergonomic standards, also providing comfort, accessibility, and safety for all users. Virtual user models and Vim-based virtual humans. Well, this component is related to developing virtual user models to represent aging individuals and people with disabilities. These models will integrate anthropometric and human factors and will be used to generate virtual humans that will allow evaluating accessibility in 3D environments. This is linked with the 3D scenario simulator, which will orchestrate the synthesis of 3D environments and will integrate virtual humans under different scenarios. The third pillar includes tools for the intelligent, adaptive, and sustainable operation of the built environment. This is related to the adaptive building operation and management system. This tool will allow the dynamic monitoring and optimization of building operations. BOMs will be coupled also with GIS to support the location-specific management of accessibility features. And last, the EV charging optimizer aims to transforming electric vehicles into active building elements, and will also integrate accessibility features and consider user behaviors into charging schedule optimizations. So this gives the overview of the technical solutions of the project, and I'm very glad to see today how we can address the user needs and considerations that derive through Work Package 2 activities. Thank you, Mattia.
Thank you, Panagiota. I will briefly introduce the content and the methodology of Work Package 2. As you know, about social inclusion and user-centered design approach, the objectives of the Work Package were to formulate...
I will give the floor to Lama to continue with the presentation, right?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So introducing Work Package 2, which is about social inclusion and user-centered design approach. The objectives were to formulate the user-centered design and to formulate some inclusive mobility recommendations for solutions in the pilot sites. So another important step of the Work Package was to assess the needs, challenges, and barriers faced by the users of the different pilot sites, with a focus, of course, on people with reduced mobility and other vulnerable groups. These different needs could affect, of course, the different type of solution that AccesS would provide. And then we also collected information on existing infrastructure accessibility and other user preferences to inform the development of the solution. So today we will discuss these key findings divided in three parts based on the three type of pilot sites. So the cultural heritage sites, the care facilities, and the public service buildings. At the end of each part, we will discuss in a roundtable using a mural board to connect the AccesS solutions to the different type of needs that were collected during the data collection and research that was carried out. So a few words about the user-centered design approach methodology, which is an iterative design process with a strong focus on the users and their needs, which are involved in each phase of the design process. So we start by understanding the context, we assess the needs of the different types of users, and then based on that, solutions can be designed and then assessed after they're tested and they're implemented. So the user centrality is the main, let's say, the core approach of the methodology. Then the iterative approach is another important pillar of this. And also the user-centered design approach involves a multidisciplinary collaboration. So the problems and the issues that are collected, that are reported, are addressed in the multidisciplinary way. So which includes different type of sciences and social sciences and art sciences. So the AccesS user-centered design approach is based on these 6 phases. The first 3 are addressed by Work Package 2, while the remaining 3 will be addressed during the project and after the project. So during Work Package 2, the design challenge for each pilot sites was defined. The users of needs were assessed in the discover phase, and then the analysis and the synthesis of the key results was made in order to to define a clear framework for the partners and for the development of the project. The successive phase, develop, prototype, and test and deliver, will be related to the following phases of the project, where innovative solutions will be tested, will be prototyped. Also, this second part of the methodology will, of course, need to include the users' involvement in the process. So, as anticipated, and as you know, we have 6 demo sites and divided in 3 typology, in 3 type of buildings. We have the cultural heritage buildings with the Brancacci Chapel in Florence, the Cristo and Jean-Claude Center in Gabrovo. While for the care facilities, we have a Dromiet House building in Albic and Casa Girasole in Massagno. And for the public service buildings, we have Palazzo di Città and Mercato de Veronicas. So for each pilot sites, a design challenge was made, starting from a general design challenge of each typology. Then the results of our data collection were reported in different type areas of accessibility, which are based on the most relevant certification in the sector. The different areas are wayfinding, horizontal circulation, vertical circulation, equipment and provisions in specific areas, sanitary accommodation, the engagement of users with interfaces, controls, and switches, and the focus then on evacuation and emergency exit and on environmental conditions. Also, the mobility solutions are addressed and will be presented together with the this built environment areas of accessibility. We will then start by presenting the first results from the cultural heritage sites, and I will leave the floor now to my colleague Chiara. She will present the key findings about the built environment, and then Eleni from CERT will present the active mobility solutions and recommendations for these 2 sites.
Thank you, Mattia, and good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to present, as Mattia said, the 2 pilots concerning the cultural heritage buildings in Florence and Gabrovo. Let's begin with the Brancacci Chapel in Florence. This site is located in one of the central districts of Florence and within the boundaries of the Veneto area. It is housed in the Santa Maria del Carmine Church, and it is one of the most significant examples of Renaissance era in Florence, hosting also frescoes by Masaccio Masolino, and at the moment operates as a civic museum owned by the municipality of Florence. The AccesS demo site in Florence aims to enhance visitor experience and heritage conservation through integrated monitoring and digital solution. And by coupling environmental monitoring with visual tracking, the municipality seeks to manage access, understanding also how much the presence of visitors and duration of visits can impact on the conservation. Someone says I cannot see the screen anymore. I don't know if you're.
I will try to share it again.
Just a moment, please. Can you see it now? I hope so.
Yes, now I can see
we can see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Since we are going to access the accessibility through the AccesS project and both the accessibility and conservation at the site, we focused on the user characteristics of the museum since the chapel structure allows access for small groups and require reservation, and there is a limit of 30 accesses every half an hour. Also, as a civic museum, at the moment, there are 3 companies and cooperatives that provide services. So we focus also on the perspective from workers, researchers and conservators active at the site. With these targets, we conducted workshops, interviews, and questionnaires to involve the main stakeholders. We also collected insights from main disability organization active in Florence and Tuscany, and also from users through a digital survey for visitors, workers, and conservators, and touristic guides are active at the chapel. These engagement activities provided understanding of the context at the city level and also help in orientating the data collection with the suggestion that the solution must be tailored also to specific disabilities. These engagement activities provided valuable insights into the broader accessibility landscape of Florence cultural site, but also a range of insight into specific accessibility challenges and needs at the Brancacci Chapel in terms of accessibility of the building, as described by the table that you can also find in the deliverable of the working package. This table is divided in a few slides, summarizes the key findings regarding the different key areas of accessibilities. Let's say for this slide, the main results would be in terms of the accessibility for small groups, that of course is a requirement due to the historical value of the site, but could be maybe benefit from a better management to improve flow and reduce waiting times, especially for those users who require an attention in terms of mobility. In the second slide, you can see other key areas of accessibility. Regarding the comfort of visits, some adjustment could be made, especially regarding the city's facilities in front of the chapel that could help both elderly people, the religious community going to the chapel for religious motives, but also people with reduced mobility that are not users of wheelchairs, for instance. In terms of engagement, so the next slide, please. I think there is at the moment there is a lack of tailored initiatives for special audiences. Although free priority access is of course granted to people with disability certificates, maybe there could be an implementation of visits for specific users. Moving to the roadmap that we structured for our project. This roadmap for implementing accessibility features emphasizes the importance of user feedback and inclusive practices at every stage of the project for the built environment, and addressing these needs will require the involvement of the different target groups active at the site in the develop phase, taking into consideration the different perspective and insights that they provided for our project. In the following slides, please. Also, the main consideration for the prototype phase of the project that could benefit from engaging again with the different disability organizations we involved, but also opening up the confrontation with other organizations, asking them feedbacks from the technologies provided and testing with them the features of these tools. Moving to the Cristo and Jean-Claude Center in Gabrovo. This center is centrally located in Gabrovo, in Bulgaria, and it will be active in a former vocational textile high school owned by the municipality of Gabrovo. Currently, the center is in the preliminary planning and design phase of an extensive renovation. It's part also of an integrated territorial investment under plan for Gabrovo, which includes also the renovation of the building and the revitalization of the riverside nearby. The AccesS project for this site offers an opportunity to contribute to the design phases of the renovation work, identifying and understanding the key accessibility needs and expectations for the future use of the built environment. And these insights will require also a thought about the user that could make their interaction with the building. In this phase, in our project, we involved, thanks to the local partners, we conducted workshops, interviews, and questionnaires to involve the main stakeholders, mainly the artist community, but also architects and planners, which we interviewed, and other organizations that work with children or adults with disabilities and specific needs. These engagement activities provided the insights into the broader accessibility landscape of Gabrovo cultural sites, also underlining that simple measures as tactile guides, audio descriptions could also be implemented in the planning phase of the Christian Jean-Claude Center. The data collection activities that we reported in this table as divided by key areas of accessibilities provided so the expectations for these users in terms of accessibility, underlining that transforming the site into an inclusive space with the division also of different areas for specific users will be very important to allow different users and different communities also to use the space and use the building in a more accessible way. I think we could move to the roadmap. Yes, the roadmap that we constructed emphasizes again the importance as for the Barangay Chapel site, but the importance of user feedback, especially in the developing phase, but also in the testing and designing phase of the tools. Again, probably the most important things that were underlined by the engagement activities were basic measures like tactile guides, audio description, ramps that could be enforced. Also, a need for a holistic approach to accessibility encompassing both physical infrastructure and the sensory and social experiences for visitors, since the center will be a place where different communities will engage together. And this, I think, we ended. Yes, I think I can give the floor to Eleni, maybe for the active mobility part. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me? You can hear me, I guess. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. So after this very detailed description regarding the building section, we can now discuss a bit the outcomes regarding the user needs and some recommendations regarding the active mobility per pilot site. So regarding the active mobility in the area around the Brancati Chapel in Florence, the stakeholder that participated in the survey indicated that the principal mobility need is a continuous and barrier-free pedestrian corridor between the nearest public transport stops, the surrounding area and the surrounding streets, like Old Tarno streets, and the chapel entrance. So at the moment, the local walking environment is compromised by regular historic paving, the absence of tactile guided surface and adequate vertical signage, and all of which kind of hinder the independent wayfinding for everyone, but also especially for people with visual or motor disabilities. These physical shortcomings are coupled. Yes, thank you. These physical shortcomings are coupled with some systematic, let's say, constraints, most notably the lack of regulated accessible parking slots, especially within the city's limited traffic zone, and the limited dissemination of information, for example, on low-floor buses services or rental mobility aids. And the aggregated effect is a high degree of last meter, let's say, in accessibility. And this means that the regional transport network functions well, but the final 100 up to 300 meters to the destination impose disproportionate cognitive and physical demands on users with disabilities. Next slide, please. Regarding the roadmap for the active mobility in Florence and in generally in all the sites, we have separated it in three different time horizons, let's say. First of all, some short-term measures that can be taken by the city. It's first of all, they can quickly install rubber mat ramps, refresh the high contrast crossings, and have stronger publicity for the already existing low floor buses and the transportation applications that already exist, and people might not be aware of them. In a second stage, they can prepare key lanes and add an alternate, maybe electric shuttle that realizes last mile transportation, and create a park and walk hub. And finally, they can extend the bike highway network, enlarge probably the ZTL zone, and they could also pedestrianize the Piazza del Carmine with and create on-demand autonomous pods. Next, please. Okay, thank you. So moving on to Gabrovo and Cristo and Jean-Claude Center. As it was mentioned before, this Future Arts Center is located in an area where pedestrian infrastructure is a bit fragmented and poorly maintained. We know that there are plans on recreating this whole area, but at the moment, the pavement is cracked in many places. The steps, there are step gradients, and frequently car and vans are maybe blocking the pavement. So this makes it hard and a bit unsafe for people to walk, especially for those who are on a wheelchair. The transport offer is good, but is spatially and temporarily thin, with vehicles that lack level boarding, tactile edges, and real-time passenger information. So consequently, the predominant mobility need is actually twofold. First of all, the provision of a physical coherent riverside footway network, which I think is planned to be realized, and the introduction of an interim door-to-door service for older and disabled visitors during the construction phase. Beyond these, no, I'm not yet in the roadmap, so yes, thank you. Beyond the tangible barriers, as the ones that were aforementioned, the site is also characterized by an absence of interactive digital tools who would enable users to plan a multimodal trip and receive situational updates on construction-related diversions. This digital deficit magnifies the perceived risk and complexity of travel in the specific area, and maybe is discouraging spontaneous attendance and undermining the center's wider cultural outreach objectives. Next, please. So the city could start with installing temporary ramps, high contrast markers, and shuttle pilot for seniors, maybe during the construction. In a second step, it could build a barrier-free cycle and walk corridor, plus accessible shelters and a dedicated app for the mobility and the transport. And as a final step, embed a universal design standard citywide and monitor the KPIs maybe annually, and export a cultural inclusion toolkit to all projects that are related to the area. And that's it regarding the active mobility. So we can move on to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen, and good morning, everybody. Now we will have a very short interactive session, which is aimed to discuss together about how these insights that we collected, so on user needs and challenges, can inform the design and the development of the AccesS solution. So I'm sharing with you in the Zoom chat a link that will let you get into this mural board. Let me know if everybody can access, or if some one of you have some issues accessing this board. So I will briefly explain how to interact in this session, and then I will leave you the floor to collect also your feedback. So this moment is dedicated to reflect together on how this feedback collected from the stakeholders can inform the AccesS solution. So we have developed this guiding question that can support you on this activity, which is to which specific AccesS tool might these results be most relevant or applicable? So we invite you to reflect on the user needs that we presented and that are collected also in this table on the mural board, and to think about which solutions can be informed by these issues and challenges and needs collected. So we can proceed like this. You have here the list of the AccesS solutions. We invite to copy-paste the solution that you think can be influenced, impacted, and informed by the user needs, and to move that one next to the user needs that you identified as relevant for this solution. So please just copy-paste the solutions so that they can be also available for everybody. If you have any issue, also please tell me so that we can support you. And we will leave you a couple of minutes to look at the table with the user needs and challenges, and to pick the solutions that you choose, and to put it in the column that it's called AccesS technology. So please now consider only the two pilots that we just presented, so the Brancaccio Chapel and the Christo et Jean-Claude Center. And then, of course, we will have another discussion for the other two clusters. So I will leave you a few minutes, and then we will have also the support from Panagiota to go through the results. So thank you. Okay, so we have a few more couple of minutes. So if you want also to address the Gabrovo demo site, great. Okay, so the board is very active, so thank you for interacting in this session. I would like to maybe ask Panagiota if she has any comments or questions or I don't know feedback on this first interactive session.
Well, I'm happy to see that a lot of interaction is happening in the board. I'm happy to see also that a lot of people have identified tools and linked them to needs. So this is very promising for the project that we can actually deliver the changes that we want and address user needs. I think we can move to the discussion if we are finished and maybe have the task leaders elaborating a little more on how they perceive the connection with the specific needs, and I can also facilitate this process, of course. One conclusion that I can, well, one comment that I can say already is that the accessibility assessment tool that enables actually the accessibility assessment framework seems to be fitting a lot in different insights. And I think this is quite normal considering that the vision of this scheme is to include different aspects of accessibility, safety, inclusion, and it can provide an assessment level and some criteria that can be considered for further actions in improving the design and operation of buildings.
So if any of the, I don't know, the mosaic leader or technology provider wants to, or someone who interacted in the board wants to comment or provide a motivation for the choices that were made in the activity, you are welcome. Otherwise, we can also go on with the presentation.
Maybe we can start with the Brancati Chapel first. As I said about the Universal Accessibility Assessment Tool, it can provide different ways of assessing key areas of accessibility. So it's normal that it's included in several aspects. These insights should be considered also during the development of Work Package 8. So Paris and Eleni, I believe you will follow up on that. For the virtual user model and the 3D scenarios simulations, I don't know if Forth wants to comment something.
Hi everyone, this is Irini from Forth. So actually, no comments. We will include all these disability issues, mobility, and for blind, disability, and hearing impaired people as well. So VUMs will have such characteristics. It's okay. I'm not sure why we see in the same rows more than once the same tasks. Is it like voting or?
I think just people just
okay.
putting different
Okay.
tools. For the definition of scenarios in the 3D simulation, this can also be very helpful in order to identify which actually scenario we want to realize, and this can change based on the virtual humans created. And this can provide also an assessment level for the design and operation of the building. And ErgoFlow also seems to be very relevant for the improvement of comfort of furniture. And the furniture list that we are delivering as part of this tool should definitely include the identified products like seating and resting furniture. One comment also is that the energy comfortness tool seems very prominent when it comes to indoor conditions, how we can facilitate the improvement of user comfort. And factors like lighting, sound are going to be considered in the comfort level assessments. I don't know if Unisystems wants to comment here. Elias, do you have any
Yes.
comment?
No, it's comment, but try to see the road trip here. Not comment yet.
Okay. Maybe then we can move to Christian Claude Center. This building is not operational, so also the energy efficient sustainable design tool can provide different recommendations for the design of the building, and it would be really nice to see some suggestions being considered in the technical annex for the renovation of the building. Domains like wayfinding, circulation, again, can be supportive by the Universal Accessibility Assessment tool, considering that those aspects will be part of the accessibility assessment scheme. Paris, Eleni, how do you feel that the scheme and the relevant tool is really prominent in the accessibility of buildings?
Hello, Panayota.
Hello.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Well, I'm just asking your first thoughts because the Universal Accessibility Assessment tool, which will enable the accessibility assessment scheme, is very prominent and seems very well fitting in user expectations. What's your first thoughts about that?
We're going to work on it and see how it fits exactly.
Yeah, because the key areas of accessibility are very relevant and actually linked with the accessibility guidelines. So this can be further developed during core package 8.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
Okay. About bombs, this is being developed by AccesS. I don't know if Ioannis or Napoleon, you have any comments? This can also support different aspects of the operation of building it, maybe navigation.
Hello, Panayota. Yes, actually, BOMS fits and collaborates with other tasks in order to monitor the consumption and sensor data of the pilots, and also provide recommendations for energy efficiency related tasks. I think it fits to many of these improvement considerations. But one general comment about all these tasks is that they are focused mostly on the facility manager in order to provide recommendations for the improvement of the design of the buildings. So maybe they are not focused to the user with a disability that wants to have free access to the building. And
yes, I understand your point, I think, because some suggestions for assistive technologies are also included here, but those are kind of out of the scope of the project, but the assistance that they require can be delivered as a suggestion or an assessment to the facility manager in order to move forward with more user interactable technologies. Is that
exactly?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if the pilots have any comments.
Just to say hello to everybody and interact a bit. Okay, of course, the Brancacci Chapel is a sort of changeling pilot site because it is a listed building. So we have a lot of barriers, both physical and legal. So how to say, also in the perception of the users, some elements of criticalities, of course, are present, and we are perfectly aware that there are no perfect conditions for elderly or people with disabilities, because we know that the environment and the building is a complicated building. So we start from a very challenging point. Sometimes the perception of the users, from my point of view, do not correspond to the reality sometimes, because there are some elements that are seen as critical, but sometimes my vision is different. For example, the accessibility to the area. The square, it is a pedestrian square, and of course there are cobblestone, and the pavement is not how to say, very easy to walk in, but of course it's something that is untouchable, so some solution really can't fit the possibility, the real possibility of intervention. Sometimes, I don't know, the square before was a parking area, so I think that improvement in the mobility and accessibility have already been done. Of course, we can further improve with the signals, with the information, with the indication signals, because of course, horizontal or vertical, of course, we can improve these aspects, but sometimes some suggestions or some criticalities are really difficult to be overcome for legal requirements and for artistic conservation requirements. Some other perception I have already discussed with Lama. Some points are minority. How to say, this picture, I think, do not represent perfectly the situation, because have been included some positions that are the minority and have been represented as a barrier or as a complaint. And sometimes the picture do not really represent for me the real challenges or the real margin of intervention that we have. But of course, we can improve a lot of things, and all the suggestions are precious for us. And of course, the audience that was engaged was very wide, so it's a very broad picture. And for us, of course, this is an interesting point of view to open our perception of ourselves as well. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Manuela. Indeed, the Brancaccia Chapel poses a lot of constraints due to its cultural value. Addressing all user requirements is a tall order. I think the standardized framework can help towards that. And we will consider the limitations, of course, during the application of the tools for its case. I see also from Gabrovo a hand. Yes.
Yes, hi. Thanks for all the inputs and insights. During the presentation of the case of Gabrovo, there were some comments on improving accessibility during the construction phase. I could have misunderstood. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what would the benefit be, especially for people with difficult mobilities, to access the site during construction, which is actually forbidden by law?
I think maybe this refers actually to the workers in the construction site, because there are some disabilities in everyone that can affect different aspects of their lives. So it might be the cases for working staff that we can maybe address. The focus of the project, however, it's not for construction practices. So I'm not sure how we can reflect on that. And some tools focus mostly on the end result, which is the building or the building under design. But some general recommendations for navigation, wayfinding signals can maybe apply also in working areas. So we can see about that. I don't know if this answers your question.
Nayota, if I may
Yes.
add something at this point, there was something about construction phase indeed, but we don't mean the construction phase of the building. We mean mainly, in regards to active mobility at least, the construction phase of the surroundings. So when I don't know what is the timeline and the time plan of the construction of the building and the construction of the the area outside the building, but when the building is ready and the space outside the building is under construction, there should be means for people with disabilities and also without disabilities to approach the building. So if the walking area is not ready when the building is ready, there should be ad hoc services and mobility as a service for people with disabilities that could allow them to reach the building if the public transport means are not ready yet or the walking area is not ready yet. So it was mainly this construction phase.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for the contribution. And we will now move to the second section of presentation, presenting the insights from the case of care facilities. So we'll present the key insights from the Dromjet House building in Nalvik and from Casa Girasole in Massagno. Dromjet House building is a residential building for young adults with different type of disabilities. Mainly all residents have cognitive intellectual disabilities, and some of them, almost 50%, also have physical disabilities. So there are 12 residents with ages from 20 to 30 years old. So the design challenge for the project is to increase the independent living of the residents so that they can carry out with autonomy, or most what is possible, of course, daily activities within and around the buildings, and doing so they can reduce also the reliance on support from professional assistants and also parents. So during the data collection, the stakeholders involved included, of course, Bruco Housing Advisors, which is the demo site's leader and responsible for the project, and then also the Dromjet House Foundation and Dromjet House residents by the consultations of the parents of the residents about the needs. Workers on the sites were also involved in consultations and interviews to collect also their perspective on the accessibility of the building. So the needs that were collected were mainly related to some issues on horizontal circulation. In general, the built environment is perceived as accessible, but there are some small challenges that were reported by the stakeholders involved, in particular about entrance door malfunctions and sometimes congestions in shared space, due of course to the assisted devices such as wheelchair that are also, and mobility aids that are also used by the residents. Of course, in terms this affects also the vertical circulation and the issues related to the elevator, which is perceived sometimes as too small, especially for workers to fit both mobility heads and other tools that can be useful for the workers during the daily work. Then some challenges were reported about some specific areas of the building, such as, for example, the kitchen. In this case, some elements were reported as not accessible, especially for people with reduced mobility, with using a wheelchair. So some elements of the furniture were not perceived as completely accessible. So then about the other specific challenges that were reported includes the engagement, user interface controls and switches, such as, for example, poor Wi-Fi coverage was reported in some area of the building. This, of course, could affect some any type of digital solution that could include an internet connection, and also issues with battery malfunctioning, for example, of the doorbell, well reported by some of the stakeholders involved. But in general, as I said, the building is perceived as fairly accessible, with a lot of elements that can address the current needs of the residents and also of the parents and the visitors of the building. So coming to the roadmap from Dromjet House, we suggest that the technical partners address these considerations, in particular for this type of target groups, such as wheelchair users, residents which have intellectual or cognitive disabilities, and also the condition of multiple disabilities should be taken into account when developing the access tools which will involve the users. So the perception of caregivers and the needs of caregivers and assistants should also be taken into account, because it will really help to have a smooth workflows and intuitive design for very everyday daily work. And then another important target groups we should be considered while developing the AccesS tools are the family members and the visitors. Which of course also might have some different type of accessibility, different type of needs in terms of accessibility to the built environment. So as also was stated for the previous case studies, it is very important as within the user-centered design approach. That all these stakeholders that we listed are involved with while developing, prototyping, and testing the solutions, so that all the needs are taken into account. Then coming to the Casa Girasole case, which is a residence for elderly people. Most of the residents, of course, face reduced autonomy, and they require different level of assistance with very daily living activities. Another type of users of the Casa Girasole is the healthcare and management employees. So the question here again was to design challenge was to improve the accessibility of the building, and also this design challenge for the project includes also a focus on electric vehicle charging points for workers or visitors, especially those with reduced mobility. So another important point of this design challenge is to focus on accessible charging points and accessible electric vehicle charging points. So the stakeholders involved included, of course, Azienda Elettrica di Massagno, which is partner of the project and is responsible for the demo sites, activities of the project. And then also the municipality was involved, which is the local governmental actor, and the caregivers and the facility manager were involved as main, let's say, users consulted during this first round of consultation. So in general, as it was in Dromiet House, the condition in terms of accessibility of the building is perceived as quite good. There might be still some small improvement, for example, in the internal wayfinding. And another challenge includes the maintenance of the building and the devices. So one of the main challenge which was reported by our stakeholder was the maintenance of the buildings, so which are used both by the residents and the workers. So sometimes the challenges about this type of work was reported by the stakeholder. Then another important insight still is about the installation of the charging station. So when installing the charging station, it should be taken into account the accessibility as a core principle. So the needs of people with different type of disability should be incorporated into the design and taken into account, so that also from their point of view, their needs are addressed by the station, and the station can be easily used also by people with different type of needs of accessibility. Then another few remarks, small remarks about the integration of technology and the environmental conditions, such as remote control systems, the accessible elevator control panels, and also include a comprehensive digital building maps and wayfinding tools, for example, which address audio descriptions and customizable routes. Then another small challenge was reported about appropriate lighting. So an interesting insight is about the integration of technology for automated accessibility solutions that could be addressed. For example, LED lights with motion sensors. So as for other case studies, again, we recommend to take into consideration the needs in particular the residents, which in this case are elderly people with reduced mobility, with hearing and low vision, or sometimes might be completely blind. So it's important that navigation supports includes these different types of consideration to address all the different types of needs of the residents, and that the development of the solution takes into account that space for mobility aids is required, and lighting levels are a very relevant area of improvement and development of the different type of tools. Then I will leave the floor to Eleni about the active mobility part of Prometheus.
Yes, thank you, Matthias. So regarding the active mobility user needs from the JUS Foundation in Naldwick, for residents of this specialized care facility, the decisive mobility requirement is regarding the out area of the building. It is mainly the sidewalk system to be sufficiently wide, leveled, and protected to allow unaccompanied, if possible, wheelchair travel to the city center. Currently, the pathway width seems that it's not enough and below sometimes, drops sometimes below the standard recommendations. Some curb transitions are either missing or are inconsistent, and tactile indicators are virtually absent or absent in some spots, and making users to use their cars instead, or other modes instead of walking to the city center. So complementary challenges arise in public transport and shared micromobility. For example, the bus stops might lack the level boarding and audiovisual information for people with visual or hearing impairments, while adaptive bicycle and tricycle options are still not mature enough. The result is an over-reliance on the facility's in-house wheelchair minibus, which limits a lot the residents' autonomy and places also recurring scheduling burdens on the caregivers. Next slide, please. Regarding the roadmap, as a first step for the city is to enlarge the footpaths with dropped curbs and tactile strips, and also run cargo tricycle pilots for staff support. Then a retrofitting of stops would be important, and adding shorter seatings in the stops, adaptive tandem bikes, and a simple ride pooling maybe application that could enhance the caregivers as well. Finally, create an intermodal mobility hub, integrate inclusive design into all transport plans, and maintain, of course, a resident-led monitoring loop. Next, please. Regarding Casa Girasole in Massagno, despite the fact that this care home facility is quite accessible, the interior, I mean, is very accessible, there are still some areas that have, for example, inadequate illumination during nighttime, and the primary user need is therefore an illuminated, legible, and gradient control micro network of streets around the Casa di Rasole, and linking the facility with nearby public transport modes and local amenities. Secondary challenges in Massagno relate to the lack of adaptive micromobility infrastructure that is compatible with the municipality's mobility strategy. Without level docking pads and charging facilities and low-speed zones, the scooters and the cargo bikes cannot be safely deployed, and they cannot be actually a safe and accessible modal alternative that would otherwise extend the travel horizons of residents and visiting relatives. Regarding the roadmap, first of all, There could be a motion sensor LED for the lighting and curbs and tactile signs, plus a real-time kiosk. Then weather-sheltered stops and shaded benches and accessible e-bike stocks could be realized. And finally, a more generic city-wide mobility as a service platform with accessible routing and that is embedding inclusive design in the zoning codes and deploy IoT sensors for possible open data feedback and adaptive planning. And that's it.
Thank you again, Eleni. So now we will have a another discussion on this cluster. So on the Nalvik and Massagne demo site, you still have the link in the chat, and maybe someone of you is already inside the mural board. So what we will do is that we will leave you a couple of minutes for going through again the user needs and challenges and provide your feedback on the AccesS technologies. So we will have these couple of minutes to work individually, and then we will moderate a discussion also on this cluster. Thank you. So you have still 1 minute. So if you want also to provide some feedback on the Casa Girasole, thank you. Well, still this activity is very animated, so I don't want to interrupt you, but we can already start the discussion and then maybe also integrate the table while we go on with the discussion. So I would be glad to leave the floor to Panagiota for any comments from your side, and also for then opening the discussion with the other partners and stakeholders.
Yes, thank you. Well, for starters, the Tash Foundation is a quite advanced case, and a lot of user needs identified user needs are being well served because the building was designed with a focus on accessibility, and the end users of this building are people with disabilities. So it has a very focused design to those target group. However, I think we can find additional aspects for improvement, and this is reflected also in the user needs. This pilot will allow to demonstrate scenarios with the interaction with actual users with disabilities. So it's a very interesting case in the whole scope of accessibility and inclusivity. Again, there is a limitation with some aspects that are not within the scope of the project, like assistive technologies. However, for example, technologies that are relevant with the automation, control, and monitoring of the building can be visualized through BOMs. So we can enable one-point access for all this data for the facility manager, and also the personnel working there. The comfortness tool can also provide some recommendations for a comfortable indoor environment with some particular KPIs and based on the comfort levels and the occupant profiles that will be derived through the interaction with those tools. 3D simulation scenarios and linked with the virtual humans that will reflect the profile of the users with disabilities living there can take the existence of available technologies as how those are already supporting people living there, and with a vision to also optimize the environment. I think also ErgoFlow is of interest here as well, with the elements for kitchen, for example, being in an accessible height, or some furniture that we don't consider so much in the design of the building. And for both cases, I can say most prominent on the Massaño side. We can also see the actual application here of the EV charging optimizer, because Étage is going to implement an EV charging infrastructure, and Massaño already has one. So we can see how this can work with charging infrastructure. I don't know if technical partners want to comment on the insights and how this is relevant to their tools.
Yes, Panagiotta, sure, for the
Hi, Manos. Please go ahead.
I would like to mention that there are some areas, some key areas of accessibility that, from our point of view, there is no big interest for example, the virtual user models. Let's say, for example, the sanitary accommodation that targets residents with no specific challenges reported, etc. As I can see, there is a yellow sticker there regarding the virtual user model. And from our point of view, there's no such interest to model such kind of virtual user models and what to do with them to make some 3D simulation environment testing. I cannot see the goal, the high level, what we try to pursue at this, for example, at this key area. What is your opinion about that?
I'm not sure I understood. What is your point, Manos?
For example, the virtual user models allow us to model specific
anthropometric data and human
anthropometric
factors.
data,
Yeah.
and in that case, we have just residents. For example, in the wayfinding, we have cognitive and multiple disabilities. There is something to do, or there is much
You
more
mean
to do.
that there are predefined the factors for that case?
We would like to define some factors in that case. There is, as you can see, there is some goal to model the residents with having cognitive and multiple disabilities, and then to give them as input to the 3D simulation the task 5.2. In the other case, in the sanitary accommodation, for example, I'm not sure if this is doable, for example.
I think, well, for the virtual humans here will actually be a representation of the people living there. So I don't think we will need for those scenarios to play with different aspects, because the target groups are very well defined. It's not like we have a range of different factors here. However, there is also a variety because of the people living there that have different disabilities, and also the for the personnel working there, which is users that could be included in the simulation also to ensure they are included in a comfortable environment. The integration of those modules in the 3D simulation will allow to improve the building layout and see if they are pleased with the current situation. There's going to be an assessment of the accessibility, of the comfortness, and I think the 3D simulation can provide insights on how different scenarios are perceived from different humans. If also our models reflect the current situation with the people living there. I'm not sure if I answered your question, though.
Having your answer in my mind, I can tell that the yellow sticker can be applied in every case, for example.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Okay. What I try to do is that to separate that cases that having much more interest rather than the other case, for example. But in the way that you put it, the yellow sticker goes with everything, with every key area of accessibility. That's my understanding, right?
Well, I can agree that the virtual user models combined with the 3D simulation can have a wide application level, because indeed it provide an assessment of different scenarios, predefined scenarios with the users that can be changed depending on their human factors and profiles. So it can deliver a lot of scenarios indeed. For all pilots sites, I think this is a conclusion.
Sure,
Yeah. Yeah, and also again, I think that the accessibility assessment tool has a prominent role because the different domains of accessibility will be included as part of the scheme. So this is connected with the accessibility assessment tool also being developed by Forth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can move to Casa Girasol if no other comments, and then we can. Yeah. Well, what we said before applies as well about the yellow and green sticker for virtual models and 3D simulation. And the universal accessibility tool. Here also BOMs can provide for the operation of the building an integrated point to visualize data. This is mostly targeted to facility managers in order to improve and control the building's operation. We can see any link with the EV charging optimizer. And this is a very interesting aspect for this pilot case that we have the opportunity to test charging stations in the parking area in Casa Girasol for both visitors and workers there. And the comfortness of the building is also very important for the residents. So different profiles depending on their age, and I think it's going to be interesting to assess different rooms also, living apartments or common rooms, and see how the comfort can be improved for all users. So the assessment also after the implementation of these tools is going to be very interesting to see how we actually manage to address those user needs. I don't know if there are any comments from technical partners or the pilot representatives here.
No, from EM side, I think it's clear.
Hi, Stefano.
Hi, everyone. And then yeah, I think from our point of view, it's interesting for sure what you have pointed out is the most important aspect. So energy, let's say, of course, AV testing, but also the link between comfortness and energy optimization. This is something that, of course, it's for us very interesting to test and to evaluate.
Thank you, Stefano. Guido, how do you feel about our tools?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, quite good. First of all, thanks for all the work everyone did. I think with all this information we can improve our work for next projects. And there was one point we spoke about micromobility and with the buses, the public transport. And for this target group, there's people, the children with young adults with disabilities. It's nearly impossible to use public transport, even if they're totally accessible. And the same with micromobility. They can go on their own to the supermarket or only one or two. And some issues here in the list, like the Wi-Fi problems and battery problems, they're already solved. So I think we don't have to invest time to solve problems. These problems, they are already solved. We changed the Wi-Fi system. And yeah, I'm very interested in the things about the kitchen. There's one part I didn't design, so very interesting. And the results later on. So thank you.
Thank you, Guido, also for the insights. I don't know if we have also more time. Maybe we can move to the next session. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Panagiotta. Yes, we will now discuss the results from the case of public service buildings, and I will leave the floor to my colleague Arshita.
Thank you, Mattia, and good morning, everyone. So this is the last cluster of presentation. Next slide, please. So next slide. So first we will do the case of Palazzo di Città, Bari. So basically it's a municipal office building that is located in the center of the city, and it's also architecturally significant. So the main objective here is how we can reimagine this building and its surrounding area to be more inclusive, especially for individuals with disabilities and other vulnerable groups, so that they can ensure equitable access to the public information, to different municipal services that are being offered, ensure equal participation, and enhance user experience while they access these services. In terms of user groups, we have two main. So the municipal employees that are working in the building and the local citizens that are accessing the services. At the moment, there are around 122 employees working there. And according to the municipality, on a daily basis, there are around 500 individuals visiting the building. That also includes the staff and the citizens. In terms of stakeholders involved, of course, we had the demo site actors that were involved in the data collection process, but we also included visitors and employees of the building through an online survey. Next slide. The key needs that were identified especially through the online survey of the visitors and the employees were as follows. So starting with the wayfinding. A lot of employees and also visitors pointed that the signages or the wayfinding, especially at the entrance of the building, are inaccessible. So, for example, the employees pointed that there is absence of tactile guidance throughout the building or at the entry of the building that affect people with visual or cognitive disabilities. And also the first-time visitors, they find it hard to understand the layout of the building, where are different rooms and services located. Then in terms of horizontal circulation, the employees also pointed that there are often lack of ramps or the pathways within the building are obstructed. So that can be a barrier for people with reduced mobility. And also they pointed that there are certain corridors that are too narrow, they have a low ceiling and also narrow doors within the building. And also for the first-time visitors, one of the key challenge was how to navigate once they are inside the building. So there were lack of directional signages throughout the building. Next slide. And then in terms of vertical circulation, one of the barriers that was pointed, although the building has elevators, but there are certain sections on the upper floor of the building that are inaccessible for people with reduced mobility that also offer municipal services, for instance. And in terms of visitors, one of the key concerns was related to the safety of a specific staircase within the building. Then when it comes to the specific areas of the building, so for example, using the public services or interacting with staff, it was often noted the service counters or the information desks, they were not so accessible, especially people with wheelchair users. And also the employees, one of the key barriers that they faced, that their works, the furniture related to their workspaces, they were not so adjustable. So there were poor ergonomic condition, also employees with disabilities. So there are 2 employees that have physical disabilities that are working there in the building. And moreover, it was reported that there are lack of designated sitting or resting areas throughout the building. Also in terms of restrooms, they were quite physically restrictive, especially for wheelchair users, and they had inadequate space for movement. And when it comes to the engagement, overall, it was reported that the employees working there, they lack the training to cater to the needs of visitors with different disabilities. Again, when it comes to accessing the information, the service counters were not physically accessible. In general, the information was not available in accessible format. So, for example, there were lack of tactile or auditory guidance, so hindering people with visual disabilities. And also, the information presented was quite complex, so difficulty for the first-time users to find relevant services for them. And also in terms of evacuation and emergency exits, inaccessible entry and exit points, especially for different kinds of disabilities. Then in terms of environmental conditions, especially when it comes to the employees and employees working spaces, it was reported a poor thermal comfort and poor air quality as well, and ventilation. And they also pointed out that the lighting in the common areas were not adequate, especially in the stairways and the corridors of the building. Next slide. Coming to the roadmap, these are the considerations that can be taken into account for different target groups. So I will just highlight the key ones. For example, when it comes to the wheelchair users or those with reduced mobility, so it's important that we redesign or rethink how the service counters or information desks are available at the moment in the municipal building. Moreover, it's important that the upper floor where there are municipal services located, they are accessible for these users. When it comes to blind or low vision visitors, it's important that the information that is available in accessible format, whether it's online on the website or physically available in the building. Moreover, there is a need to provide tactile or auditory guidance throughout the building so that these visitors can navigate the building independently. Next slide. Then in general, there was a key issue related to the sitting and resting areas. So provision for these areas could be a good solution. And when it comes to the employees in general, there is a need to improve the ventilation, lighting, or thermal comfort, especially in their shared workspaces, and also improve the furnitures or the adjustable desks with which they work. And when it comes to the prototyping and testing phase, again, it's important that the feedback from the visitors or the employees or employees that have physical disabilities in the building is taken into account also during the KPI process. For example, when you calculate the ease of circulation within the building or accessibility KPI within the project. So it's important that the feedback from these users is also incorporated in the process. Then maybe we can go to the next slide. We can start with the case of Murcia. So here it's a public market building. And again, our objective here is how we can reimagine this space, especially for people with disabilities, with a focus on older individuals so that they have equitable access to different services, that we can ensure equal participation and enhanced user experience during the shopping. Again, two key user groups. So we have the shopkeepers and the customers that visit the market. So the customers, they are primarily old individuals that basically live in the neighborhood. And on a daily basis, there are around 500 plus visitors to the building. That includes shopkeepers, the local consumers, but also some tourists. In terms of stakeholder engaged, again, we had the demo site actors that were involved in the data collection and implementation of data collection activities, but we also engaged the shopkeepers, the visitors of the market, and a range of disability organizations that represent a diverse range of disabilities. And also we included an organization that represented the architects in the Murcia region and one of the other governmental actors from the region. So in terms of the key user needs, when it comes to wayfinding and signages, a lot of people did not consider it as a key barrier because maybe they were the regular users to the market. But some of the people, for example, the first-time visitors, they found a bit difficult to understand the layout, what services are located where. So it came up as an issue. But also when it comes to deaf or hard of hearing individuals, in general, there is a lack of accessible information or signages. So there is no clear information for them to navigate the market. In terms of horizontal circulation, a lot of shopkeepers pointed that there are uneven surfaces throughout the markets, and often there is a poor arrangement of the stalls, organization of the stalls that can often make the aisles a bit crowded and cumbersome at some times. To facilitate this smooth movement. Then when it comes to vertical circulation, it was often noted that the escalators were out of service and the staircases that are present at the moment are a bit risky for older individuals, but also people who have shopping carts or strollers for shopping purposes. It's a barrier for them. Then again, it was noted that especially for people with physical disability or wheelchair user, the stall height or the counters were too high or even at times were too crowded, and it was unclear the queue layout for several stalls and so on. And again, there were lack of resting or sitting areas for shopkeepers, but also for the visitors in general. And the restrooms, they were also again described as physically restrictive, and also they lacked features, for example, related to the stations for changing stations for children, for instance. Then when it comes to engagement, again, for the deaf and hard of hearing individual, there is lack of sign language communication. So for them, it's difficult to understand the information and services available in the market. For shopkeepers, one of the key concern was related to the crowd congestions, because they don't have proper tools, for instance, to monitor the crowd flow or the availability of different services within the market. And then in general, when it comes to evacuation and emergency exits, there were lack of visual or auditory cues. For environmental conditions, one of the key concerns was there were often high noise levels in the market during the peak hours. That was a bit of a barrier also for deaf and hard of hearing individuals, but also for shopkeepers or visitors that spend a lot of time in the market, and inadequate lighting and so on. So in terms of general considerations based on the target groups, so when it comes to wheelchair users, for example, it's important to reconfigure the stall layout within the market on the ground floor so that the pathways can be widened so that they can accommodate the needs of wheelchair users or even people with shopping carts. When it comes to deaf or hard of hearing individuals, it's important that they have accessible information. It can be on the website or through dedicated information portals in sign languages or in captions, so that they can navigate the market independently. And for cognitive or intellectual disabilities, it's important that there are intuitive navigation aids. So for example, visual icons or tactile maps that can be incorporated throughout the market. Next slide. Then maybe I'll highlight just for the shopkeepers. One of the key considerations that they wanted is dedicated rest zones for themselves. Moreover, dedicated restroom facilities for them with showers, and also something to monitor the flow of the crowd within the market so that they can adjust accordingly. And in general, improving the thermal comfort and ventilation and air circulation to improve the air quality, because there were often reports of a smelly environment in the market. Again, for prototyping and testing, it's important that you include the visitors and the shopkeepers. And also when delivering the AccesS tools, it's important that they are accessible in all formats, and whatever platforms they are available, they are accessible for different kinds of disabilities. That's it. Then maybe I'll leave the floor to Eleni.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Rosita. So regarding the user needs of for active mobility in Bari, the users of this municipal complex reported discontinuous tactile paving and obstructed care ramps and non-standardized pedestrian signals create significant barriers in the area for independent navigation. Particularly for people and citizens with sensory impairments. Their foremost need is therefore the systematic retrofitting of tactile and audible guidance elements across all routes in order to approach the entrances of Palazzo di Città. At the systemic scale, mobility challenges emerge from information fragmentation in, for example, buses, metro, and bike share operations that are actually operating through separate digital interfaces, and micromobility talking points that lack real-time occupancy data. This arrangement places high cognitive load on travelers, especially those with limited digital literacy, and they are reducing the practical accessibility of public and share modes, and reinforcing the use of private car dependency around the specific area. Regarding the roadmap, next slide, please. As a first step could be to provide tactile and braille signage, audible signals, also curb ramps and accessible audit with probably Waymo e-bike trials. And then retrofit buses and metro with announcement and launch maybe one-stop mobility as a service application in order to create shared barrier-free places or hotspots. And finally, institutionalize a universal design procurement to install smart BMS in public buildings, and maybe AccesS could also help in this, and expand citywide inclusive micromobility fleet link to real-time information and dashboards. Regarding Murcia and Mercado de Verónicas, the stakeholders here highlight that pedestrians encounter narrow, sometimes uneven sidewalks with continuous level changes and rare tactile cues that creating a non-friendly environment, especially for wheelchair users and pedestrians with visual impairments. Accordingly, the overriding need is the creation of a continuous and standard width footway complemented by high contrast tactile wayfinding elements that link public transport stops to market entrances. And further challenges relate to the presence of micromobility ecosystem, which offers already a high-speed e-scooters without adaptive vehicles, though, and without protective lanes or regulated parking. And additionally, for deaf and hard of hearing people, the combination of ambient noise of the market and the absence of captioned information creates wayfinding difficulties. Addressing these difficulties is quite essential for aligning the market district with the municipality's sustainable urban mobility plan objectives for equitable and low emission accessibility. Regarding the roadmap in Murcia, first steps could be flattened pavements, installing tactile signage, pilot maybe level boarding buses, smart disabled parking bays, and inclusive scooters with sign language user interfaces. Then extending the barrier-free pedestrian networks and mandate accessible stop and protective lanes. And as a final step, building multimodal hubs could be also a solution, electrifying public transport within regional mobility as a service services, mainstreaming adaptive mobility, and run Veronica's as an open data living lab for continual improvement. And I think we still have some small time for discussions for these two highlights.
Yes. Yes, we have a little time for a last session. So again, I will invite you to put your inputs on the last cluster about Bari and Murcia, a couple of minutes to work individually, and then we will have really a short discussion, but meaningful for the last cluster. Thank you. Okay, thanks for this last session. And Panagiotis, I don't know if you have any feedback or comments to open the discussion.
Yeah, I will try to be a bit fast about that. Well, again, I think the situation more or less for our pilots discussed previously stands here also for Bari and Murcia. My feeling is that the universal accessibility assessment tool can provide an assessment of the current situation and a recommendation for improvement. Also, the 3D simulation environments, which is linked with the virtual humans and avatars, can test different cases if they are easy to navigate or circulate for different type of disability groups. The operation of the building, there are a lot of considerations linked with the energy and lighting and maintenance, so this can be facilitated also by bonds because those buildings expect renovation. I think also the energy efficiency sustainable design tool from Q Technologies can provide some recommendation for improvements. And the comfortness tool can support comfort, lighting in both buildings. It's interesting to see that people also mention the comfort and concerning products. So this is linked with the ErgoFlow tool and the ergonomic design that we can support. Assistive technologies are also mentioned. I think for Murcia case, there are being some actions from the pilot side towards that direction, respectively, of the project, but connected with the accessibility part. The signets part is also very essential for our pilots, so we can see how this can be improved. I think more or less this concludes the situation for me. I don't know if technical partners want to add something. One thing I remember. I forgot to mention before, but it is mentioned here for some micromobility aspects. It's not a core component of it's not a digital tool, so this is why it's not mentioned, but the project also includes the development of proof of concept design for micromobility solution by Mo leading this activity. So there's going to be a design of cargo bike for considering elderly and people with disabilities. So this is something that can be considered by the municipalities and pilot representatives. I haven't discussed a lot on the mobility part because the roadmap has been thoroughly presented by Eleni, and I think this is something that can guide in general the strategies for the municipalities beyond the project as well, and it's also include a long-term approach. So already this I consider a meaningful result from the beginning of the project. And now for anyone else who wants to comment, please go ahead. Anything from the pilots, maybe?
From Murcia, I think Panagiotis really summarized our main objectives here. Obviously, for us, it's difficult the EV charging tool, but maybe the micromobility would help us.
Good. Thanks, Pablo. Okay, maybe we can, given the time being, maybe we can conclude the discussion. I don't know, Lama, if you want to.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Panayota. Yes, I think we can conclude the discussion. We thank you for your involvement during the data collection and stakeholder involvement in this process. We hope that it provided useful information for you to improve the built environment and mobility solutions. And we thank you, of course, also for joining this workshop. And we hope that these insights are useful for the development of your tool during the project. So see you soon for the next plenary in June. And thank you again for your participation.
Thank you, Mattia, also and all Lama colleagues for setting this up and leading the surveys. One last remark from my side, I really think that this process will be very helpful for the technical partners, and it will help you further refine the use case scenarios that are going to be implemented by all the tools. So let's use this as a guide for the activities to come. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.